The Grand Council chamber hung suspended in the void between stars, a crystalline monument to 10,000 years of absolute dominion. Within its prismatic walls, representatives from 300 subjugated species knelt before the tribunal of 5 ancient beings, whose civilizations had conquered the galaxy long before most stars had names. Ambassador Krell of the Vastuk hegemony trembled as he approached the dais, his forearms laden with data cores containing his people's yearly tribute. Behind him, quantum-locked containers held precious metals stripped from dying worlds, biotechnological secrets harvested from his species' greatest minds, and something more valuable still, the genetic patterns of 50,000 Vastuk children, selected for assimilation into the Council's eternal armies. The ambassador's scales rippled with barely contained grief as he placed the final container at the tribunal's feet. This was the price of survival. Every species paid it. Every species knelt. Across the chamber, similar scenes played out in synchronized rituals, the mantis-like Threnody surrendering their hive queens, the crystalline shard offering shattered fragments of their own people, the telepathic wormesh binding their collective consciousness to council oversight. Refusal meant extinction, and the galaxy remembered the lesson written in the ashes of 17 civilizations that had dared to resist. The tribute had sustained the council's power for millennia, transforming rebellion into resignation, hope into horror. But now, in the chamber's central display, a new designation appeared: Species 7847 Class G, Planetary Civilization, 3rd Orbital Position, Sol System, Designation, Humanity. The younger council members barely noticed the addition. Another primitive species to be catalogued, evaluated, and ultimately broken. First contact protocols activated automatically. Quantum communication arrays, reaching across 8,000 light-years to deliver the standard message. Submit your tribute within 1 standard solar rotation, or face complete eradication. The transmission burned through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star, reaching every screen, every device, every human consciousness simultaneously. The message was clear, translated perfectly into every human language through quantum linguistic processing. Kneel or die. The galaxy held its breath, as it always did when new species received the call. Humanity listened, governments convened, scientists analyzed, military commanders calculated. For 72 hours, Earth was silent, and that silence confused the Council's monitoring stations. Most species responded within minutes, some with immediate capitulation, others with futile defiance, quickly crushed. But humanity did nothing. No panic broadcasts, no fleet mobilizations, no desperate diplomatic overtures. They simply watched, learned, and waited. The Council found this delay amusing at first, then troubling. Unknown to the tribunal, deep in classified facilities beneath Earth's surface, something else was happening. Archives were being opened. Protocols were being activated. Old agreements were being honored. When the 73rd hour arrived, the Council transmitted again, their patience exhausted. This time, the message included holographic footage of species 6,523 feet-seconds homeworld burning, its oceans boiling away as Council warships demonstrated the consequences of hesitation. The recording showed screaming populations, cities collapsing into magma, and finally, silence. 30 billion lives ended in 6 hours. This was the cost of delay. The Grand Emissary ship materialized in Earth's orbital space with the theatrical brutality the Council had perfected over centuries. It was less a vessel than a mobile fortress, large enough to generate its own gravitational field. Its hull inscribed with the death dates of extinct civilizations, flying monument to inevitability. Council enforcer Thanarix stood at the observation portal, his 3 eyes studying the blue-green world below with professional disinterest. He'd delivered this ultimatum to 47 species. 47 species had submitted. His vessel deployed gravitational distortion fields, causing tides to surge violently on Earth's coastlines, a demonstration of power that usually shattered remaining resistance. Across Earth, billions of humans looked up and saw the massive ship blotting out the sun, casting continents into shadow. Thanarix prepared to deliver the final demand directly to humanity's gathered leaders. His message was theatrical, designed to break spirits. You are species 7847. You have been evaluated and found worthy of assimilation into the Council's eternal order. You will provide resources, technology, and 10 million individuals between the ages of 15 and 34 military integration. You have 6 hours. This is not negotiation. This is mercy. The transmission ended. Thanarix expected immediate response, frantic communications, desperate counteroffers, the usual pathetic bargaining that preceded inevitable submission. Instead, Earth's communication channels remained quiet for 17 minutes. Then, every screen aboard the emissary ship flickered simultaneously. A single message appeared, text only, broadcasted from every human communication satellite, every military installation, every government server at once. Not a plea, not a surrender, not even a threat, just one word, repeated in every language the Council had ever encountered, translated with perfect precision into frequencies the Tribunal would understand. Denied. The word hung in space like a thrown gauntlet. Thanarix stared at it, his 3 eyes widening in genuine confusion. Denied. Species didn't deny the Council. Species couldn't deny the Council. The word meant nothing without the power to enforce it, and yet, humanity had responded with absolute certainty, as if refusing galactic domination was as simple as declining an unwanted invitation. Within microseconds, humanity's response propagated across quantum communication networks, reaching Council monitoring stations, diplomatic channels, and subjugated worlds throughout the galaxy. Denied. The word appeared on displays in the Vastok capital, where Krell watched it with 3 of his hearts, suddenly beating faster. It materialized in Threnody Hive networks, causing unprecedented synaptic disruptions as millions of drones processed the impossible concept. It reached Wormesh telepathic channels, where the collective consciousness experienced something they hadn't felt in generations, a spark of desperate, dangerous hope. On the Tribunal's homeworld, klaxons sounded for the first time in 400 years. Emergency session protocols activated. The 5 ancient beings who ruled the galaxy materialized simultaneously in the crystal chamber, their forms shimmering with barely contained fury. How dare this primitive species defy them? How dare they risk everything for pride? But beneath the rage, something else stirred, something the Tribunal hadn't experienced in millennia. Uncertainty. The galaxy's oldest civilizations remembered what younger species had forgotten. The Council hadn't always been unchallenged. 17 species had resisted. 17 species were extinct. But there had been an 18th, whispered about in encrypted historical archives and forbidden data stores, a species that had fought the Council to a standstill before vanishing mysteriously, leaving behind technology the Tribunal still couldn't replicate. The records were sealed, the story suppressed. But certain details remained: a yellow star, a blue world. Something about that system that had cost the Council more than they'd ever admitted. Now, in the emergency session, the eldest of the Tribunal accessed those classified files. Biometric scans confirmed. Stellar cartography matched. Species 7847 occupied the exact system where species designation unknown had once dwelt. But that was impossible. The Council had sterilized that world 15,000 years ago, leaving nothing but molten rock and radioactive ash, hadn't they? Across the galaxy, the Council's vast intelligence apparatus turned its attention to humanity with sudden, focused intensity. Spy networks activated. Deep space monitoring stations began processing years of accumulated data on human development. What they found shattered comfortable assumptions. Humanity's technological growth curve was wrong, too steep, too focused, too militarized for a species that claimed to value peace. Their energy signatures suggested infrastructure that shouldn't exist for another 500 years. Their communication networks exhibited quantum encryption protocols that matched Council military standards. Most disturbing, their weapons systems weren't defensive, they were optimized for one specific purpose: destroying ships exactly like those in the Council fleet. This wasn't the profile of a primitive species stumbling into galactic politics. This was the signature of a civilization that had been preparing for this exact confrontation. Deep in Council intelligence archives, an AI construct began cross-referencing historical attack patterns with unexplained fleet disappearances over the past century. 73 Council vessels had vanished under circumstances officially attributed to navigational errors or reactor malfunctions. The construct plotted their last known positions. All 73 had disappeared within 50 light-years of Sol system. The spy network's findings reached the Tribunal within hours, and with them came something that turned confusion into cold terror. Humanity had a phrase they used in their military doctrine: recovered from intercepted communications. We don't start fights. We finish them. Council xenolinguists analyzed the statement and found it curious. The grammar implied humanity expected to be attacked first, had built their entire strategic doctrine around response rather than initiation. Species didn't think that way unless they had historical precedent, unless they'd been attacked before and survived. The tribunal accessed deeper archives, older than their current dynasties, records from the first expansion era when the council had been younger, brasher, more willing to risk total warfare. And there, buried in data streams 15,000 years old, they found it: Sol system, species designation, human status, quarantined, code, Zatari, absolute, threat assessment, existential. Below that, a single annotation in ancient script: never return. They are not like other species. They do not surrender. They do not forget. Avoid at all costs. The tribunal immediately ordered fleet mobilization, but not for attack, for withdrawal. Every council vessel within 100 light-years of Sol system received emergency recall orders. The Grand Emissary ship's captain, Thanarix, stared at his console in disbelief as retreat protocols overrode his command authority. His ship, built to intimidate entire civilizations, began a rapid dimensional jump sequence without his input, but it was already too late. Earth's orbital space erupted with new signatures, not ships rising from the planet, but ships that had been there all along, hidden beneath stealth fields that made Council cloaking technology look primitive. 37 vessels materialized simultaneously, their designs sleek and predatory, their weapons already locked onto the emissary ship. They didn't fire. They didn't need to. The message was clear: we've been watching you the entire time. You were never in control here. Thanarix received one final transmission from Earth before his vessel completed its emergency jump. Tell your masters, we remember. Tell them we've been waiting. Tell them the tribute ends now. Council intelligence continued piecing together humanity's hidden history. As panic spread through subjugated worlds and whispered rebellion turned to open defiance. 15,000 years ago, the ancient council had discovered a species in Sol system that had, through some statistical impossibility, developed faster than light travel, alongside nuclear weapons, a combination that produced the most dangerous military doctrine the galaxy had ever seen. The first council diplomatic mission had demanded tribute. Humanity had refused. The council had sent in forces. They'd never returned. The council had sent fleets. Entire battle groups had disappeared into Earth's defensive networks, torn apart by weapons that violated established physics-kinetic bombardment systems that weaponized entire asteroids, quantum-entangled mines that detonated across multiple dimensions simultaneously, and something the ancient records called strategic deterrence, planet-killing weapons that humanity had built specifically to ensure mutual destruction if attacked. The Council had faced a choice: commit to total warfare that might cost them everything, or quarantine the system and pretend humanity didn't exist. They'd chosen quarantine, then systematically erased the records, ashamed that any species had fought them to a stalemate. They'd left automated monitoring systems with one directive: ensure humanity never developed interstellar capability. If they did, send warnings. Except the monitoring systems had failed 500 years ago, and no one had checked. Humanity had gone to the stars quietly, carefully, mapping every council installation, studying every weakness, building shadow networks across 300 systems, while pretending to be confined to their homeworld. They'd infiltrated subjugated species, not as conquerors but as allies, sharing technology, offering alternatives, building the framework for coordinated resistance. When the Council had finally detected them and sent the tribute demand, humanity hadn't been surprised. They'd been ready. They'd been ready for 15,000 years. Within days of humanity's refusal, the galaxy transformed. On Vastuk Prime, Krell broadcast humanity's response across planetary networks. His scaled features set with newfound determination. If they can say no, so can we. The Vastuk withheld their tribute for the first time in 43 generations. Threnody, Hive Queens broke their neural control links to Council oversight, choosing extinction over submission. The Shard civilization restructured their entire crystalline society around the concept of denial. Within weeks, 60 species had suspended tribute payments. Within months, that number reached 200. The Council's enforcement fleets, stretched across 300 occupied systems, found themselves facing coordinated uprisings on 17 fronts simultaneously. And wherever Council forces mobilized, they discovered human vessels already present, not attacking, simply observing, their weapons locked but not firing, their message clear: escalate, and find out what else we've been hiding. The tribunal convened one final time, their crystalline forms fractured with stress that their species' longevity hadn't prepared them to handle. They'd ruled for 10 millennia through overwhelming force and strategic terror. But humanity had revealed the fatal flaw in their doctrine. It only worked on species that were alone and afraid. Humanity had spent 15,000 years ensuring no species would ever be alone again. The Council's chief strategist presented 3 options: total war against humanity, which statistical analysis gave them a 37% chance of winning at the cost of destroying the Council itself; continued occupation of subjugated worlds, which would require resources they no longer had as tribute payments collapsed; or the unthinkable third option. The tribunal chose survival. The message broadcast across every Council channel simultaneously, translated into 8,000 languages, transmitted to every occupied world and hidden human network. The tribute is ended. The Council recognizes species autonomy. We withdraw. A human envoy arrived at the Grand Council chamber 3 months later, the first member of species 7847 to physically stand before the tribunal in 15 millennia. The envoy wore simple clothing, carried no weapons, and moved with the easy confidence of someone who knew they'd already won. When they spoke, their words were translated perfectly by quantum linguistics, but the tribunal understood them in ways that transcended language. "This galaxy doesn't belong to tyrants anymore," the envoy said, their voice steady and unremarkable, carrying none of the theatrical drama the Council typically demanded. "For 10,000 years, you built your power on fear. You made entire civilizations kneel, made them believe submission was survival. But you forgot something fundamental about sentient beings. We don't actually need your permission to be free. We just need to stop asking for it." The envoy gestured to the vast chamber, where hundreds of species had once knelt. "Humanity won't rule these species. They'll rule themselves. We'll help where asked, defend those who can't defend themselves, and ensure what you built here never rises again. You're welcome to join this new order, but you'll participate as equals. The age of empires is over." The galaxy didn't transform overnight. Monuments to Council power fell slowly, tribute fleets required years to fully disband, and some occupied worlds struggled to remember what freedom meant after generations of submission. But the change was inexorable. On Vastuk Prime, Krell's grandchildren grew up learning that their species had helped end the tribute system, that cooperation had proven stronger than domination. Threnody hive networks developed new neural patterns based on choice rather than compulsion. The Shard civilization rebuilt their shattered populations into something stronger than what the Council had broken. Human vessels patrolled the spaces between civilizations, not as conquerors but as guarantors, ensuring the mistakes of the past decade millennia stayed buried, protecting younger species from threats both external and internal, and always watching. Because humanity remembered what others had forgotten. Freedom isn't given by the powerful. It's taken by the courageous, defended by the vigilant, and maintained by those willing to say one perfect, terrible, beautiful word when tyranny makes its demands. Earth's quantum beacon pulsed steadily outward, carrying a simple message into the unexplored regions beyond Council space, reaching toward whatever civilizations dwelt in the galaxy's unmapped territories. The message contained no threats, no demands, just an open invitation and a warning encoded in mathematical truth. You're not alone anymore. Help is available. Oppression is not inevitable. But no, this humanity didn't start this war. We didn't ask for it, didn't want it, spent 15,000 years hoping we'd never need to finish what others began. But we will finish it, every single time, because some things are worth fighting for, and freedom tops the list. The signal continued its journey outward, an echo of one word spreading across infinite darkness, reaching into the unknown, promising that no species would ever kneel alone again.